All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Monday night team call, team Zoom. I am Allie Antonacci. I know we have lots of guests on the Zoom tonight. So I am an Ambassador Diamond. I live in St. Louis. I've been in the business over 6.5 years. But I'm super, super, super excited tonight because we have a couple guests joining us. And they are incredible, incredible leaders within this organization. I'm so thankful that honestly, through friends and connections and just this business, I've met both of them. I've spent great time with both of them, and they're just incredible people. And the biggest thing with both of them, when I was thinking about the topic for tonight, is that at some point in their business, they made a shift, they made a decision, and they made it happen. And I'm really excited for them to share some of that tonight. So I want you guys to, everybody get out a pen and paper, absolutely take notes, text a few people that they need to be getting on here. And then if you can, let's say you're not, taking a shower or something, can you show your face? We have, it's hard to speak to a screen of black boxes. So show your face, even if you're in the middle of doing something or, and you're going to be listening. We would love to see you. It just shows some respect to our guests that they have an attentive audience. It's a little unnerving sometimes talking to black boxes. They're still pictures. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mira Denning and Valarie Reynolds. So I am going to let Mira go first because Mira's on the East Coast. And I think it's past her bedtime. I'm going to unmute you, Mira. All right, there she is. And you guys, I was so fortunate to meet Mira via, I guess, because I had downline growing in Maine, and that's where she was, and she met one of my team members, and therefore I met her, and she's just incredible. So Mira, I'm gonna let you just jump right in, and will you kind of give us a little bit of your story? What was your background before? What made you start this business? And what were some of those obstacles in life you were facing as you grew and had to make the decision to make this business work?
Yeah, absolutely. So happy to be here. Hi, everybody. So I'm a presidential diamond, and I am from a small town in Maine called Yarmouth, and I joined in 2015. So I've been in it almost 5 years. Actually, this is going to be my anniversary um this month, so that's pretty exciting. 5 years. So just a little bit about me before I started. If you had looked at my life from like an external perspective, you would have thought I had everything made. I mean, I went to good schools, I climbed the corporate ladder. I was associate vice president at a $2 billion healthcare corporation at the time that I joined. I wasn't a spring chicken. I was 38 years old. So, I had a house. I had, my son was 1.5. I was married at the time. So like everything from the outside would have looked awesome. But secretly behind the scenes, we were absolutely drowning in debt. My husband at the time had started a business in our early 30s, and he had a good salary position. We kind of built up like an American dream lifestyle based on two salaries. But when he started his business, his salary went away, and that business never took off. And so, as opposed to kind of just correcting things quickly and moving on, instead, for years and years and years, we hid that out of embarrassment that the business wasn't working. And not only did we not have his income, we started using mine to funnel it. So all of that was a series of really bad decisions, but that's okay. They led me to It Works. But by the time the company sort of came into my world, we were behind the mortgage, multiple 6 figures of debt. The marriage was highly toxic, and just really lots and lots of just negativity and bad things going on. And I have always been a hyper responsible person. I'm red green, like I'm very, very detail oriented. But so I was a family accountant, and I really wore that stress on me, for years and years and years, that financial stress, and was constantly trying to solve the problems in my head about how all the budget math would work. And of course it wouldn't. So A girlfriend that I knew a little bit was doing this business. I watched her for a year, you guys. I always say to people, first of all, you do not know who's watching. You might have a top 35 income earner watching you for a year. And two, you don't want to prejudge because she never asked me. I reached out to her finally. She never asked me, and she knew me well enough to ask me. I bought greens and all that, and live about 5 minutes away down the road. But she thought everything was great. So do not assume what you see from the exterior is what's actually happening. So, so I jumped in, and while I literally had no box checked whatsoever, I had not been on Facebook. I didn't have a good network because I was very isolated. I was busy as heck with a 60-hour-a-week job plus my baby. I was in a terrible emotional place. I barely knew the products. Like none of those boxes were checked. What I did have was a really, really strong why, a determination to move past it. And my friend had been successful. She had earned a $30,000 bonus the day that I joined. It's kind of what inspired me to join. So I had that proof of concept with her, and I just was very coachable. I said, what do I need to do? I hit Ruby in 4 weeks and Diamond in 4 months with a $10,000 bonus at that time. Obviously, it's 15 now. And I don't even, people ask me how I did that. I don't even really remember that a lot, to be honest with you, because it was just like, I was just bootstrapping like crazy because I did not have a social media presence. I'm just like, what volume do I need? What box do I need to fill? I really had the charts out, was filling it from pretty much my first week trying to go Ruby. And, but at that time, after that 4 month period and I hit Diamond, that really changed my entire adult life. And then I kind of open up and really start learning the business. So there, I was classic ignorance on fire. So I spent about a year, going to my first events and kind of exploring, kind of keeping at diamond level. And it took me about 18 months to really find my voice and figure out what I want, how I was going to build. And that was really ultimately through Facebook and building and belly to belly, a combination of like Facebook for local team and then building belly to belly. And from there, I had a really great, stable business, but I started going through a divorce. And, we can talk more about obstacles if you want, Ali, but had a really, really tough 2016, 17 when I was going through my divorce. But this business sustained me. It was my sanctuary. My team were my closest friends. I could go out and get small wins in the business that I couldn't get in my job because my job was so bureaucratic. And that just really lifted my spirits. The money was life-changing because I became a single mom during that process and had all these legal bills, but they all got paid by It Works. And my debt started getting paid down and all of that. And then, and I was fine with it being a side income. I really didn't have a vision of it bigger than that. And so if you're sitting here, you're like, listen, I love my job and this is just side income. Like, just know that, that's okay. Cause that's how I was my first 3 years, and It Works met my needs. Okay. That's what I needed at that time. When my divorce went final, and of course I can break all this down more, but this is kind of to the point of tonight, something shifted for me. Okay. So my divorce went final. I won custody. I had clarity on money. I knew what I had to do to pay down debt. I knew I was like at that point, single mom on my own, got to get this done. So I had a lot of clarity and I had space. All that toxicity left. And a week later, we had our first event ever in Maine, which is just crazy timing, but that's God right there. I met Jenny Philbeer for the first time, and I met Mary Beth Dodd. I had never really had an upline because my enroller had stopped, and Mary Beth Dodd just really adopted me. She was new in her position as the field development leader, and so from there, between her meeting great friends like Jenny, meeting people like Allie, who here I was like, this little diamond, and she's an ambassador, like just saying, you're doing a great job down in Maine. Like I started having a bigger vision, you guys. And so just realized I wanted to, within a few weeks of the divorce going final in that event, realized I wanted to push bigger. Within 6 months, and I'm going to talk about what I did in those 6 months. Within 6 months, guys, I went from just a pretty basic diamond level to triple, 6 figures a month. 3 months after that, I retired from corporate life at 41. Never had planned that. But I was like, my team is exploding. I cannot keep up with all of this. I'm making more money with It Works than my 20-year career. I'm going to have to retire. Like, I can't handle all this and be a single mom. 3 months after that, I went presidential, earned a $25,000, well, actually earned $40,000 in bonuses that month because my dad was my triple. And, basically for the last 19 months of it, 5 figures a month or more, up to sometimes over ambassador pay, which is just crazy. Just knowing the comp plan that if you're doing everything right and everything you should, you can beat the averages and bust up to that next level, no matter what your rank actually says. So obviously in the 2019 was number 34 in the company, and went to Costa Rica. Guys, the last 2 years just crazy. So, but all of it, to Allie's point, and we can break this down, came with a decision that I made in September 2017, coming off of my divorce, coming off really a horrible period in my life, that I was going to work until I hit triple diamond. That was what I had in my head. It wasn't presidential. It wasn't top 50. It wasn't any of that. It was like, I need to get that VIP 6-figure income because it's going to get me out of debt and save, kind of help my son. And so during that period, I worked harder than I've ever worked on anything. But one of the things I want to tell you guys tonight, and we'll talk more about this, is that it's a sprint. And when you sprint for 90, 120, 180 days, whatever it is, we're not talking about sprinting for 5 years. When you sprint like that, you can literally change your entire life. And so as we entered boom season this year, I was telling my team, the next 90 or 120 days, if you bust ass, you will be blown away at where your It Works. I don't care if you're starting literally January 2020, you will be blown away with where you can be coming off of boom season for really the rest of your It Works career, because it creates momentum, it creates a story, it creates belief. So I'll stop there. Allie, you tell me kind of where you want me to go from there.
Well, oh my gosh, like the comments are just blowing up. Like people are like, this is incredible. Are you? And I'm so glad you just are really honest. You're really vulnerable. Like you got to a point where you were like, I mean, you've shared some of this with me too. Like you were like, well, I'm getting divorced. I have this huge house to pay for. We're drowning in debt from trying to save everything for years and hide it. And it was not, oh, I hope I could go triple and like maybe make some cash. It was like you had to go or sell your house. You had to go or like lose some, you didn't have an option. You just simply decided, not you wanted to make it happen, but it was happening. So can you, like, it's really easy for us to say, oh my gosh, yes. Like you go to an event and you're like, I'm doing it. But like, we all know that fades within about like, with me, I mean, it was 4 days after a conference and I had like a kid in urgent care and my car got broken into. And I was like, well, there's the wind out of my sails, like gone. Life will happen. Can you talk about like, what did you have to implement? So you made the decision. We can say, oh, I'm going to do these tasks and I have my tracker. Like you had to implement changes in your daily habits that now I'm sure are just part of your day, but to take you to where you went from a struggling diamond to Costa Rica winner. I mean, you blow my mind. So if you want to talk us through kind of what are now, like, I want to make sure we're giving people action steps. They've made a decision. How do they keep going with it?
Yeah. And some of these might feel super obvious to some of you, but some of them aren't. They're so important. Listen, the number one thing is you have to know exactly what you want to do and exactly when. And so you can't be like, woo, I want to go ambassador. Like if I went to Allie and said, I'm going ambassador. And she's like, when? I'm like, I don't know. It's happening sometime. She like kicked my butt. All right. So you have to know exactly what you need to do. So for me, again, I was not focused beyond triple. I was focused on triple. That triple chart was out. It was out all the time, all day, every day. I mean, I tell my team literally during 2018, I think my chart slept in my bed with me, single woman, right? Like, so, the chart was out. I knew what I had to do. I had one great leg. I had 2 legs that were not great. I needed to build those 2 legs. I worked with my team that was working to pour vision into them, what they needed to do to get their goals, which would make the whole thing work. But then I also had to build 2 legs. So I then backed out with charts. I'm going to come to the personal development side of this, but I'll talk about the practical tactics. You have to absolutely make a decision. This is where I'm going to go. This is the chart I need to fill. And then I literally would look at, okay, well, what do I need to do to hit that chart? Like, how do I build that chart? So for me, I'll just be honest with you guys. I've been a very good distributor enroller from the beginning, but incredibly inconsistent my first 3 years. So I go through some months where I enroll 15 distributors and then some months where I enroll 1. And a lot of it related to my emotions and where I was at that time. I did not create a discipline with expectations with myself around distributors. I'm like, oh, I'm really good at that, but like pat myself on the back, but it really didn't have a purpose. Okay. And I didn't have the discipline of the expectations that I brought into every month that I was going to do. And so I shifted that entirely. I said, I have to hit my steps 3 times. I have to get at least 9 distributors in to get all these boxes to be able to create, within 9, I'm going to find 3 that want to push for Ruby. Of those 3, maybe 2 will actually do it, right? 2 out of 9, maybe. So you're going to get, and I never expected that I was literally going to fill every box. I wanted to find people that wanted to go Ruby. Okay. And that could, at least start that process on their own. So I created that discipline, Allie, and it was so that was a huge thing. If you're not in your chart right now, right, that you want to go, what are the absolutely non-negotiable expectations that you're putting on yourself to enroll? Now, if you're in a promotion month, that's different. Then we're probably talking about a lot of loyal customers, but it's not very different. It's like, okay, well, I need 2,500 BB. I got to make that happen in 25 days or whatever it is. So that was part of it. But I also had to do tremendous things to get over my fears, to get over my self-doubts. And so that was the first. I had never done any personal development. I was 3 years in my business, never done any personal development. So what I started doing was, a little bit was like podcast and external thing, but for me as a very hardcore red, what fired me up, and you got to find what fires you up, was going on YouTube and listen to people yell at me. I've told Allie that before. I needed Jade yelling at me on YouTube. I needed all these people. I had all these people yelling at me. Tiffany Herr, I'm sure, yelled at me a bunch on YouTube. And so that fired me up. That got me determined. Other little things for me, and I know, again, Allie, I'm sorry, I know you've heard some of this before, but like I still do that, you guys, all day in my office. I put on house trance music. I'm like, like boom, 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 boom. I'm sitting there like message. It pumps me up. For you, for other people, and maybe I need to read a verse in the Bible. Okay, that's not how I am. I need to like pump in action. And then I did a lot of affirmations. So I really wrote out affirmations that were up in multiple rooms. Like techno music, Becky. uh, and I wrote out affirmations. Now I do journaling and I do a lot more stuff. But back then it was just very simple 4 affirmations. And I walked in so much fear, you guys. The month I went presidential too, like people at that point would have never believed it because, I had many months of just crazy success and starting to have some kind of notoriety or whatever. But that month I went presidential September 2018. I had fear every single minute that I woke up because I woke up terrified that I claimed presidential and I was going to fail. And I'm going to tell you guys, it doesn't matter what your rank is. We all have so much fear, you guys. We don't want to fail in front of you either. Okay. Just like you don't want to fail in front of your family or anything. We don't want to fail in front of our teams. So how did I get past that? So every single day, I would drop my son off at school. I'd come back. I would do affirmations, but I also did a visualization exercise. And that was me texting Cammie and Mary Beth that I had hit presidential. And I did that in my head. I closed my eyes just like an athlete would, right? You visualize crossing the line and the speed in whatever first place or whatever. So I did that every day. And that would just calm me down. Then I put on my little dance music and get going. So all of that I just, those are 4 or 5 ideas. Everybody's different, but whatever it is, just know that A, you're not alone, and B, you got to get figure out your triggers to get out of it, because fear will take you nowhere. So, and we all have it. It's not unique to any color. It's not unique to any rank. But the people that can manage their fear and walk through it and get into action, because by the way, action will also calm your fears down. When you start getting messages saying, yeah, order me like 3 cleanses, you're like, sweet. Then you feel good. So those were some of the things that I would say, like managing my emotions in combination with having a very specific plan and expectations of enrollment. And just one quick things out. There's times in our business where we need to focus on a 6 list and the process. And I am very green, so I love process. But when you're talking about promotions, you've got to focus on results. If it's 20 messages or 100 messages, if you need 50 BV that day or 500, you got to work until it's done. And I'll tell you right now that that's one of the biggest shifts in me, is that if I have a diamond leadership bonus up to that day, or a fast start, or I have a number I need to hit for a promotion, guys, I don't stop until those LCs are in the system. And if I have a charting goal, I do not stop until those distributors are in the system. And that's one of the biggest differences that I see in myself versus like maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing, because you're like, no, like, you guys, Mira is so green that she knows like exactly how much volume her team needs to bring in daily to hit the this and that. And like, if you're like, oh yes, give that to me, it's awesome, do that. If you're like, I'm sorry, what? Like, and it takes all kinds. Valarie, Mira, and I were laughing that we're all the exact same personality type, and so of course they were my guests tonight. But you do have to simply decide what you're going to do, and it's not like, I know I'm trying to hit it. Not I'm trying. I'm hitting a promotion this month that is a big stretch. It is a stretch. I'll get the distributors there. The volume is a very big stretch, but it will happen. I just can't 30 BV people. Everything needs to be 100. Those sort of things. We just make decisions like that. So Mira, I just think that's amazing. Thank you so much. I know that this is really late for you guys. She's on the East Coast, so it's almost 10:30. And with time change, like I'm a disaster. I'm exhausted. So I'm just we're cheering you on. And when Mira said she knows exactly what's happening, you guys, she's told me exactly who's promoting when on her team and when she's going ambassador. Like, she said, oh no, it's this month, and then this month. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's that clear and that specific, and that's why I have zero doubt it will happen. So Mira, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
You're the best. Thank you so much. All right, Valarie. I'm gonna jump over to Valarie. I tried to unmute.
I'm here. Hi. All right. So hi, guys. I'm Valarie Reynolds. I'm also a Presidential Diamond. I've been with It Works for 4.5 years. So my 5-year anniversary is in September. And I'm a former teacher and a head volleyball coach. So I have a little bit different of a background than Mira, but I know I have talked to Mira before because she is very green and so am I. But I am a green red, although my team does know that my yellow is starting to slowly come out, but she has her own name. I have to kind of summon her out. And so she does exist and she is there. Blue does not have a name. We don't know where she is because I'm totally not blue at all. But I do have a yellow part of me whenever she wants to show her face. But I was the teacher for 6 years and I am married to a football coach and I'm from San Antonio, Texas. So Texas high school football is king. And whenever he's in season, I'm essentially a single mom, and at the time I was also in season as a volleyball coach, and so 2 coaches with 1 son. It was very, very hard on our lives, but we just thought that's just how life was going to be. We were going to live paycheck to paycheck because teachers don't get paid very much, and we had, we were the first ones, both my husband and I were the first ones to graduate college, so we are first generation college grads for both families, and so we kind of set that bar for our kids. But even though we went to college, we were getting paid minimal. We did live paycheck to paycheck. We had a house, we had a car, so we weren't hurting necessarily, but at the same time, we didn't have a whole lot of flexibility. But that's just how life was, and we just went with it, right? And it wasn't until my son was about 3 years old when my life totally shifted. And I basically was acting like my son was a newborn all over again. When I was dropping him off at daycare, he was the first one at daycare, always the first one. Like sometimes we would beat his teacher, and he was the last one to get picked up. Daycare closed at 6, and I literally would get there after practice at 5:58 sometimes to get him from daycare. So he was always the first one and the last one. We had just enough time to have dinner, bathe him, put him to bed, and I had to do that all by myself because my husband was at practice. And that was life until, like I said, until basically when I started dropping him off at daycare, I was bawling my eyes out coming to school. And that had not happened since I was barely, like out of the hospital postpartum, and you still have those hormones raging through your body. That's how I was acting. But he was 3 years old. And I was like, what is going on? Like, God, what is going on? Like, is my heart changing? And I kind of slowly started feeling God tugging me and kind of giving me subtle hints saying, you are about to change. Like, you need to find a way to spend more time at home. This is not like a hormone thing. Like, this is me calling you to something different. And your mission field is no longer a high school. It's raising your babies. It's leaving a legacy. It's something else. I just didn't know how, because if I were to step away from coaching, that was about an extra $1,000 a month added onto my paycheck, and we couldn't budget that out of our budget. We just could not do that. And so I messaged my friend, who I know Mira said that she reached out to her sponsor. So my sponsor actually had messaged me the week of two-a-days. And so, I mean, I was like making teams. We had just started the season. I looked at her message and said, I don't have time for this. Why are you messaging me? And I ignored her, flat out ignored her message. Didn't even respond back with a no thank you, just like not even going to respond. I don't have time for this. 2 months later, when all of this stuff started to change in my heart, I messaged her and I was like, how do you make money? And that's really all I asked. She got me on the phone. We talked for about 30 minutes. We weren't close friends, guys. We were maybe acquaintances from college, and acquaintances is using that term loosely. I just knew she was the one that was showing up on my newsfeed. She was making money from home. So when I was looking for a way to somehow make an extra $1,000 a month, so I didn't have to coach anymore. Like, all I was looking for was getting off at 4 o'clock instead of 6. Like, I just wanted an extra 2 hours a day. That's all I wanted with life. And I messaged her and asked her. She got me on the phone, and my husband came home, and I was like, I think I want to do this. Like, I don't know anything about it, which is very against my green personality, because I am an Excel sheet girl. I'm a list girl. I need to know all the things about all the things. And the fact that I was wanting to do this with knowing nothing, like, I don't even know if I could tell you the company name, but I knew I needed to make extra money. That's how driven I was with, I needed to make a change in my life. And so I said yes the very next day, signed up. I had hardly any time. I was working 60 plus hours a week. I had never tried the product before, so I knew nothing. I knew we had wraps, and it wasn't until after I signed up as a rep and got on my eSuite, I started telling my husband, we have this thing called greens, and we have skincare, and we have this, and I had no idea we had any of that, y'all. Nothing. So I knew nothing about the products. I was super, super busy. And, all of that stuff was very scary to me. But like, once again, like Mira said, I was ignorance on fire. I was just gonna figure it out. Like, I had to, because my other option was be miserable at work. That was my other option. And that didn't sound like a very great option to me. So I actually started off slow. And I say this for if we have any new people on here who are maybe within just their first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you are sticking to the training, you are posting consistently, you are messaging, you're getting host to post stuff, whatever it is you're doing, and you're starting to get a little frustrated and you feel like maybe you made a mistake, I want to tell you, it took me 17 days. It took me over 2 weeks to sign up my very first customer. And I was working every day. I was messaging and making me sweaty. I was afraid of what people were going to say to me. I was afraid people were going to be rude, but I kept at it because I told my husband 2 weeks in, I was like, literally, I cannot sign anybody. And he's like, well, you're going to quit? And I was like, no, like I was a coach, right? And I was like, heck no, I'm not going to quit. Like, I tell my athletes all the time, push through, suck it up and push through. And so being married to a coach, that's kind of the that's kind of what I get from him. He's like, well, then suck it up, Val, and keep going. You will get better at it. And sure enough, as soon as I got that one yes and that one person signed up, it was a floodgate. And I went ruby in 2 months, emerald in 4, diamond in 5, and double in 7. And I was just wanting emerald. That's all I wanted. But as soon as I started seeing the momentum and I started looking at the income chart, I started dreaming. And I started showing my husband the income chart and saying, well, what if I hit double? Like, that's the same amount of money I'm making as a teacher, if not more. I could like retire. I could work from home. I could do this full time and not even have to go to work anymore. How awesome would that be? And I just started playing with the idea of dreaming bigger and bigger and bigger. And because I kept playing with that idea, we kept going, and I pulled a team with me. I was dreaming for them. We were able to go double diamond very quickly. Then I retired. Everything was hunky-dory. And then I sat at double diamond for 2 years. And we went like this. We went up and down, up and down. I hit my first lull, hit my first time when GV dropped. I got pregnant with our daughter. So then I also had hormones. So I had low enrollments. I was tired all the time. I was hormonal all the time. And that was just a real low part of my business. Mentally, I was not very clear. I was calling my sponsor crying, like, what's happening? Did I make a mistake? You know, we can't survive on what I'm making right now. And we just had a lot of question marks. I had never experienced that before in my business. But I just kept trusting everyone. Our sponsors, our uplines, they kept saying, just keep going, just keep going. Like, it's going to go back up. Just keep working, Val, just keep going. And it did. Like, we hit conference. I went to conference pregnant. We had another swing. I was able to get my husband to diamond, but I still didn't hit triple. And it really wasn't until I went to this retreat. So it was literally 2 years in from me going double diamond. One of my uplines is Ashley Sinclair, and she invited me to a retreat that she was having with a bunch of top leaders. And that's where I met Allie. And that was back in like 2018, maybe. And I sat there. I'm one of 2 double diamonds in this big, huge house with a bunch of ambassadors, presidentials. I did not feel like I belonged. And that weekend was so scary for me because, like I said, guys, I'm not a blue, okay? And so I walked into this house that I've been in one time before prior to this, knowing hardly anybody, feeling so intimidated. And I remember her asking everyone, what is a fear that you have? Like, what is your expectation coming into this weekend? And I flat out was vulnerable to everyone. And I said, I don't feel like I belong here. Like, I'm really confused with why I am here. And they were like, Val, you belong. Like, I don't know if it was Allie or if it was Amber Parker who looked at me and said, if you hadn't told us you were a double diamond, we thought you were an ambassador like the rest of us. And that was like an aha moment for me. And the more I hung out with these ladies and the more we started talking about fears and vulnerability and doubt, guys, hear me when I say, if you look up to these top leaders, these triples, these ambassadors, these presidentials, and you think that they're fearless, they may have moments of where they're courageous, but we are just like you, like the exact same limiting beliefs, exact same doubts and low self-esteem moments and negative self-talk. We have those exact same things. And it wasn't until I literally was in the same room with all of these ladies and they were telling me they had this, like they were asking me how I was signing up customers. That was just a huge aha moment for me. Like, these ladies are not any different than me. What the heck have I been doing this whole time? I charted triple like a couple of days after we left, and I went triple that exact same month. And then I went pres last year. And so I say all of that because I really feel like a huge part of my story is just this mindset shift that I really held myself back. I really do feel like I held myself back those 2 years from double to triple because I just really didn't believe I could do it. Like, I kept saying it. I knew it was the right answer on the test. And people ask, well, what's next? Oh, triple's next. But I really never believed it in myself that I could do it, that my team could do it. And that was huge. And so I really encourage you to just start saying your goals out loud. that probably was one of the biggest things. I never wanted to say it out loud because I didn't want to fail, right? I didn't want to claim it and then fail. And it feels really weird, but I've learned that about myself, where now I have those vulnerable moments. And when I have a goal, I immediately know I need to text it to my uplines, because if I text it and I claim it, then it's there. Then I have to do it, right? And I would have a really bad habit of keeping it to myself. And then if it didn't happen, it's okay. And I still do that. Like, I still have that procrastination habit. I just learned to break it more often instead of letting it just sit there. So I have a whole lot more to my story, but that's just kind of my story, like in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh, that is like all so amazing. I remember that. Like, I remember that weekend at Ashley's house, and I mean, I was terrified too. I knew like no one going. It was super intimidated. I didn't even really know Ashley that well. Um, and yeah, we all sat there, and it was unbelievable to realize the common ground of fear
Mm-hmm.
and scarcity, and it was throughout. And then what was amazing is one person would shift, that core group of women still has a group message. We still, and it's like amazing how we can just pull each other up. It's like, so yes, exactly. You have to hold yourself accountable to someone. If you're on my team and you have no one to claim your goals to, message me your goal, you know? So yeah, you made that shift, and it was incredible because it was like, you were like, oh, I'm a double. And Ashley was like, no, she's going triple. And then finally by the end of the weekend, you were like, oh, game on. And it was, because I think that was like April 4th, 5th, like it was beginning of the month, we all got together. And it was unbelievable that like you made this mental shift, and it was like visibly, you took action. So you were talking about saying your goals out loud, but now, I mean, that weekend was almost 2 years ago. I think the endurance of this business is something a lot of people forget, is that it's almost monotonous and boring sometimes to do the exact same thing. So how do you endure? How do you keep going on? How have you kept your mind so focused on, I'm triple, I'm presidential, I'm ambassador, because obviously that's what you're on the hunt for now. How do you do that day in, day out? Where's your mind? And what do you do maybe when you start to feel your mind slipping? Or, I know in the midst of this, like, your husband got a different job, you guys moved, like you've done a lot, you've had a baby, like you've had a lot of life. So how do you, as you feel yourself slipping too? I'd love, because I think a lot of people are like, I get great, and then I fall off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the analogy that Mira had. When I was coaching, so not only is my husband a football coach, he was the head track coach. And when I was coaching, I was actually his assistant, and which is really funny. So he was technically like my boss, but we all know that's not true. And so I was actually the mid distance coach. And so the mid distance kids are the mix between the sprinters and the long distance. And so there's actually muscles, guys, where you have like long, like endurance muscles, and you have fast twitch, like you have slow twitch and fast twitch muscles. My degree's biology, by the way, FYI. And so the mid-distance kids are the ones that actually are good at both. I had girls that were on relays that could sprint short distances, but they also could endure long distances. And so mid-distance is 2 laps around the track. And so I really had to teach my kids, you have to have endurance, you have to pace yourself, but there are also moments of that race that you have to kick. And so I applied this business in terms of that race. So you come in, you join, I taught my kids, get in the middle of the pack. Just give yourself a good shot. You don't want to be at the front because you don't want to burn out, but you don't want to be at the end either. And so if you're brand new or you just started, you probably are trying to just get good momentum, get in the middle of the pack. So you're probably coming in hot. And if you're new and you're still trying to figure it out, just go. Just give it all you got. Like, go put up a post. Who cares if it's not perfect wording? Who cares if it doesn't look like mine or Allie's or somebody else that you follow? Because don't compare your first day to our 4, 5, 6 years in. Okay, just go and just do something. Give yourself a chance. And then once you get in it, you may have a moment, you may be in a season right now where you're just pacing. You're just like, you're just going at a good pace. You're like, I'm not really like, I'm not at the point where I need to promote yet, but I also don't want to be at the back either. Like, I'm just going to keep going. That's where you're doing like your 6 list every day. You're just going through the checklist. It takes discipline to be at the pacing mode where you may not be ready to sprint yet, but eventually, so that's literally a lap and a half of the race, if I had to guess. So out of 2 laps, about a lap and a half of the race is you just pacing yourself, which is really indicative to this business. You just have to pace and be doing your 6 list and just checking things off. But you're eventually going to see the finish line and you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it on your team. You're going to feel it in yourself. You need your charts out. And that was something that I put on my notes too, like hit this note right here. You need to have your chart out because you're going to see it. You're going to see that shift. And that's when you're going to need to kick. And then when you kick, it's like all rules are out. You may be staying up late, but and this is not to scare anybody, okay? But you will feel it, and you may have to make short-term sacrifices like sleep and maybe staying up till midnight instead of going to bed at 10 or getting up early to work. But it's a different season. Like right now, I don't do that. Like I'm building up to the kick, but I will tell you right now in my business, I'm not at the kick yet. Some of you guys may be at the kick where you're ready to Zoom until midnight or 1 a.m. You need to put those customers in. It's all loyal, 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 loyal. But you'll kick for only like 150 meters. Like that's all. Out of 800 meters, you need to kick for 150. And so just have that analogy in your head, be ready to go. And then once you kick, you start the race back up again. There is no stopping. You have another race that you need to keep going. So I know I kind of went on that analogy and I kind of forgot what you asked me to do.
No, I love that. Like, just, I was always an athlete too. So I like hearing, I think athletes are interesting in the business because we have this very competitive edge.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're also harder on ourselves than sometimes anyone else is. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was an amazing analogy because you are talking about there's endurance and there's a kick and there's different seasons. And if you kick for too long, you'll get burnt out. I
Yes.
did that when I went ambassador. I kicked for too long. I pushed for too long. I never took a breath. I never paced myself. I gained 40 pounds and was depressed and it was awful.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't do that.
No.
So I guess what I'm asking to piggyback on your analogy is how do you pace yourself, but make sure you're not falling out of the race? How do
Mhm.
you stay in that middle of the pack always? Like, what are the things you're doing daily? Maybe some action steps, some ideas for those people watching tonight to that they can take away, because it isn't about a massive overhaul of your business. Tiny little changes, tiny little tweaks, and that's how you create the long-term habits.
Yeah. So you have to be disciplined. Sometimes this business is not all cupcakes and rainbows, and the honeymoon season eventually comes to an end where you may not be excited to sit down and send some messages today. You may not feel the prompting to give this amazing business post that's going to have people message you. Those moments may not happen all the time, and that's okay. If that happens, you have to be disciplined enough to still show up every day and to have your goal. I have weekly goals. I will tell you what works for me. And obviously for everybody it's different, but if you like this, you're welcome to steal it. I work full time now doing this. Okay, so I work from home. And so I have a goal of Monday through Friday. I aim to, so this is my pacing season. Okay, this is totally not when I promote. So when I promote, this is out the window. But Monday through Friday are my open days for me actively working. And I aim to send anywhere from 100 to 150 messages in those 5 days. And the reason I do weekly goals instead of daily goals is because I have 2 children and life happens. And so if somebody is sick, I'm a creature of habit. If my routine gets kicked off, I do not do well. Okay, I have to have my routine. And so I like the fact that I like Monday through Friday, 150 messages. So if Mondays, I tend to kill it. Okay, I'm super focused. I get tons of messages done. My accountability partners will get messages from me, be like, I sent 50 or I sent 75 messages today on Monday. I get a whole bunch done. But on Wednesdays, not anymore, but Wednesdays, I coached my son's basketball team. So I would pick him up, we come home, have dinner, we have to do his homework, we go to basketball practice. So I'm teaching 7 and 8-year-olds to like shoot me in the head. When I get home, I'm mentally exhausted. And so if I had time during nap time to work, I would get messages done. But if my daughter fought nap time, like what if I only got 10 done that day? You know, it wouldn't kill me as much because I sent 75 the other day. And so I'm thinking, okay, that's 85. Well, if I need to hit 100 to 150, well, I only need like 20 to 50 more, you know, within Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, like that's easily doable. That's like 20 a day. I will hit my goal. And so I like to have a weekly goal, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, I am reactive to my business. So I'm still showing up on social media, still checking in with my team. I'm still answering messages and all of that stuff, but I don't actively message on Saturday and Sunday because I did so much during the week. Now, if you have a full-time job, because let's also talk about that. When I was working full-time, I had to work on the weekends. So during nap time, when my husband was watching TV, instead of sitting there watching TV with him, I would spend an hour or 2 hours during nap time and I would message then. Same thing on Sundays. We get home from church, we put the baby down for nap, and I'd work for an hour or two on Sundays. That's not killer. And so then I wouldn't have to work so much during the evenings, but I did have to do more on the weekends because I did have a job that I was then trying to do this business on top of having a job. So my schedule was different then than what it was now, but it all comes down to being disciplined because there is no one telling you what to do. And so you have to sit down and tell yourself to do this. And sometimes you have to almost force yourself to. Like sometimes we don't want to go, I don't go to the gym. So this is for anybody who maybe does go to the gym. I don't go to the gym, but you don't want to go to the gym sometimes, right? Sometimes you want to be lazy, but that doesn't help you hit your goal. Your goal needs to be big enough where you are willing to work for it. Like for me, if I don't show up for this business every day, then I don't get paid, which means we can't pay for a house. We can't pay for bills because I have to provide at least half of the income in order for us to sustain where we live. Like I have to work, right? I can't just my kids, like I can't go to, this is what always breaks my heart because my daughter stays home with me. If I didn't work and I had to go back to work, she would have to go to daycare. So essentially I'm looking at my daughter saying, mommy's not disciplined enough for you to stay home. Like, no, that's not right for me. Like I want to cry if I look at my daughter and say, no, mommy has to go to work. Like I have to go somewhere else. You have to go to daycare because mommy wasn't disciplined enough to send 20 to 30 messages on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Like mommy wasn't disciplined enough to do her steps to success. Wasn't disciplined enough to keep ranks, to teach other people. Like when you put it in terms of that, I want you to balance your goals with what you want with what you currently are dealing with right now. If you're tired, if you're doubtful, if you have, I'm wearing my Doubt Kills Dreams shirt on purpose because I heard this on a podcast. It's the Big Life Devotional podcast. If you guys don't listen to that one, it's so good. Go and find, like, I think it was Thursdays, maybe last Thursdays, if I want to say. And she said that she had this analogy where you have two wolves in your head and you have one wolf and it's doubt. It's your doubt, it's your fear, it's your low self-esteem, whatever it is. And then you have the wolf of your dreams, your goals. And she was talking about and like having faith instead of wishing for things, actually having faith that it's going to happen, but that we have to do the work, like God's going to bless our work. But she was talking about these two wolves, and you have to ask the question, well, which wolf is going to win? Like which wolf in your head is going to win? And the answer is very simple. The answer is the one you feed. The one that you feed is the one that's going to win. And so many times we feed the one that has the doubt and the negativity and the I'm tired and the I don't have time to do this and this is nobody's going to sign up and all of this stuff. And you feed and feed and feed and feed and feed this. Well, you're going to starve the other one. And so of course you're not going to succeed. Of course you're not going to hit your goal because you're not feeding the wolf that needs to be fed. But it's all up here. It's all up here. You get to control that. Just sometimes we choose not to control it. We flat out feel like we are not strong enough to control it, but you can control this up here in your head. And so if there's one thing that happens whenever we promote, when I've made pushes, when life has happened, it's all because I'm finally choosing to not feed the wolf that has the doubt. You have to feed the other one. And by feeding your dreams and feeding the positivity, that's going to come from your self-development and your personal development. I love podcasts. I actually have a podcast, a shameless plug. If you guys want to listen to mine, it's the Beautifully Enough podcast. It's not necessarily business related, but it is just women related. But it's all about teaching you to you control your thoughts. Like, they don't control you, you actually control them. And so I listen to a lot of podcasts. This is where Mira and I are different. So she says she likes to do like techno music and stuff like that. Like, I like the worship music. Like, I will dance to worship music like it's Usher. Okay, like that gets me like pumped up, ready to go. Sermons get me pumped up. Filling my cup up with God is what gets me going. It's what gives me energy. And sometimes you have to do that stuff and then take what brings you joy and then immediately work your business. That's something that I told Ashley back in like November and December. When I started recording my podcast, I would feel so energized from talking about that sort of stuff. Like, I'm getting pumped up talking about it with you guys. So as soon as I was done recording a podcast and I was on that adrenaline rush, I would immediately put it away, get my stuff out, and I'd start working. And I would take what would give me energy and put it into my business, even though I didn't want to work my business at the moment. Like, GV was low and, we were losing rank and all of this stuff. And that's just like stuff you want to avoid. I would take that good energy and I would then say, okay, I'm sitting down, I'm going to send my messages. And that's what allowed me to still enroll. It allowed me to kill it in September. It allowed me to have tons of distributors in September, tons of loyals in October. And it's because I just trained my brain into saying, I can still do this. I have to feed the positivity. I have to keep my mind in check, keep my thoughts in check. And if there's one thing that I feel like really held me back from triple to pres, or even double to triple, was my money mindset too, as well. It was not a coincidence that I stayed around my teaching salary, maybe a little bit above my teaching salary. But that was because that's where my money thermostat was. I know Pam Fowler talks about that, your money thermostat, and what you feel like your value is. And I could not wrap my mind around making triple diamond pay. And I couldn't wrap my mind around 5 figures a month. And I had to really develop that part of my brain too, and really, really expand that part and say, you know what, like, it's okay to have money. Like, that doesn't make you greedy. That doesn't make you, a bad person to want more. It's just, you have to put it into perspective. Like, God wants to bless you. It's like, I want to spoil my kids. I have to rein myself back from giving them so much. God looks at us the exact same way. Like, he wants to bless you abundantly, because if he does, like, he wants to do so much in your life that there is no other answer, no other explanation except for it was him. Like, there's no explanation for going from triple to pres like the way that we did, except for God was literally, his hand was in it. We were working hard, but to get the jumps that we had and to get like the paychecks that we saw were astounding. But it's because we were giving him something to work with. And so, like, that's, none of that is bad. But if you feel like you are stuck because, like, how can I ask for $10,000? Like, you can't wrap your mind around that, or you feel like there's a negative undertone to it. I would encourage you to go find some stuff about abundance mindset, and how there's a book that I'm listening to right now called, I think, Hollywood Commandments. And it's talking about having your faith along with secular success, and how you actually can have the two. And that's not a bad thing to have two backing behind it also. And I do think that was one that really held me back, was my own money mindset too. And saying, I am allowed to make $8K a month. I am allowed to make $10K. I'm allowed to make $18K a month. Like, that's, God wants me to do that, but I have to make sure that I am then humble and I know where it's coming from, that it wasn't, yes, it was my work, but it was his hand on my work that allowed the success to happen. Does that make sense? To be humble about it.
Oh my gosh. All this is like so good. I'm like taking notes. I'm like writing down podcasts. This is amazing. And the chat is like, oh my gosh, yes, speaking to my soul, truth. Like people are just like eating this up. So, and I love that like you and Mira, like it's interesting, you guys, because look at this. They're both very red green, very similar personalities, both presidentials working on ambassador, but yet like their personalities are different. The things that work for them are different. Like, and that's what's so amazing that like anybody can do this. So I hope you guys have taken some really, really amazing nuggets. Valarie, I'll let you kind of close this out. What is like the one thing you would tell people who like they are on the hunt, they are ready, you know, they're barely a ruby and they're ready to go diamond this month. Like they've got these big audacious dreams. They are ready to make them happen. Like, what do you have to say to these people who are just to get their head where their eyes are seeing?
Oh goodness. To put that all in just one answer.
Sorry, that was a lot.
It was a lot, but let me see if I could put it down into one answer for them. Honestly, I would say you think about it every single day. When I was pushing Prez, I had a journal that I just got on Amazon, and I would journal. I took this from Katie Bevington, and she did a podcast with Pam Souter. It's within Pam's somewhere. It's been like over a year. And she talked about how she journaled her way to top 50 or wherever it was, something like that. And I listened to that. And so it's part of the vulnerability stage. That's something that I struggle with, that I've had to overcome, is being vulnerable with my emotions and my ranks and things that I want, and not being scared to fail. And so I had a journal, and every morning I would journal for 10 minutes, and I would just free write thoughts in my head, and I would either manifest things that were going to happen, or thanking God, like being grateful for things that are. I would do things like our team is absolutely killing it right now. Like every single person is signing up a loyal customer. We're putting so many people into the system. And I was doing that even if maybe I felt like we had a slow day or a slow week. I was still doing it, because you truly do manifest the things that you think about. Like it's not just this like hokey, like good vibes and energy and that sort of stuff, but like literally you produce different chemicals in your brain versus the ones, if you have the doubts and you have the fears, you produce two different chemicals. So you literally are creating two different substances in your brain. So I would put all of those things down. And so that's what I would encourage you to do, is if you're going for Ruby, or you're trying to make the jump from executive to diamond, just start journaling that and just say, I am diamond. I am going to sign this much BV today. My team is killing it. I have a new distributor on my team, and she is just blowing up my phone, asking all kinds of questions, and she's just so excited. My team is so excited. Thank you, Lord, for bringing in 500 GV in the next 2 days, and da 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 da. And that's what I would do just for 10 minutes. And if you want more structure, I have this journal that I got on Amazon. It's a little bit different, and it's called Inspired to Grace. It's like $4, and it has a different structure to it. So it has, you can do a daily verse, and then reflections, and then a prayer. So this is where you can do some manifesting, but then also has gratitude too. Like, thank you, Lord, for the 2 loyals I signed up yesterday, or thank you, Lord, for my sponsor and her showing me the business, or just something like that. And so I've really been liking the layout of that. But journaling, it's going to increase your energy, and it's going to increase your frequency. And so then right after you're done journaling, then start working, because now you're going to have that positive energy flowing through your body. And so when you do message, you're not thinking about, is this person going to respond? Or you kind of know how you can get into that mindset of like, nobody's responding to me, nobody's going to sign up today. You're not going to be in that mindset. You're going to be in a abundance mindset. And so you will have, in my experience, that's when you get the waves of positive messages, people wanting to help you. You're just in that creative state, and I feel like that's really kind of keep all the positive vibes together. So journal, and then immediately start when you're in that good space. start working, and throw the rule book out the window. Like, don't worry about perfection, and don't worry if you're posting too much. Don't worry about, bugging people, like all of that. Like, you are worthy of your goal. And so just stop worrying about what if somebody thinks, because it's all hypothetical anyways. What if nobody cares? We're worrying about something like that. Life's already stressful enough as it is. Why are we creating more stress for ourselves? So just focus on your goal and understand that that failure, the true definition of failure is lack of action. And so truly the only way you will fail is if you do nothing. And so if you are doing something, you will not fail. Like, that means that you're not a failure. So even if you work your tail off and miss Diamond this month, you're not a failure, because the definition of failure is lack of action. Well, did you do lack of action? No? Then it's okay. Move the timeline to April and it's all good, honey. Like, you will still hit it. It just means that God's timing wasn't in March. It means it's going to be in April, and he's going to bless you then. So you just don't know. So just always remember that.
Oh, I love all of it. It's so, so good. And you guys, I did record this. So absolutely, we will have this to share for all our team. Mira and Valarie, thank you so, so much. I just adore the two of you. You are incredible. And I appreciate you guys endlessly. So everybody, we've been on an hour, so we're going to wrap up. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for getting on tonight. And we will see you all soon. Happy promoting in March. Bye.